Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for a conversation with Judy Ann MacMillan. We are absolutely delighted to have her here joining us virtually from Jamaica to Dundee. We have our big transatlantic link up going on here tonight, and it's really a pleasure for us to be able to do this. And I just wanted to introduce ourselves. So my name's Dr. Susan Mains. I'm in Geography and Environmental Science here at the University of Dundee. And my colleague, who's my very generous assistant, but actually overseer of museums and museum services, actually, is Matthew Jaron, who will also be helping us with our technical aspects of sharing with us our various different images related to Judy's talk. And of course, Judy Ann MacMillan is here, who's our speaker, who's currently in Kingston, Jamaica, and is also an alumna of Duncan of Jordanstone College of Art and Design, and was studied here in the 1960s, which is just wonderful to have this kind of full circle connection back again. But connecting most importantly back into our guest that we have tonight is the Jamaican Journeys exhibition is currently on in the Lamb Gallery in the University of Dundee in the Tower Building, and it will be on until the 24th of October. It's free, so please do come along, have a look if you haven't looked already. I know a few of you have already, which is great, and we've been really heartened with all the positive feedback that we've had from people who have visited. And even if you have visited, come back again. It's definitely worth several viewings, and we'd be really delighted to have you come and experience the exhibit with us. So do come by the Tower Building and have a look. So tonight we're going to do we thought it'd be a nice chance to have a conversation with Judy Ann, and we really appreciate, Judy, you taking the time to meet with us and share a bit about your journey into art and also your connections to Dundee. And I suppose I would just start with, I mean, you're a very established artist, you're internationally renowned, and I know I'm probably not doing justice to all the various awards and recognition you've had, and I think for us to have the opportunity to see your work firsthand has just been brilliant. What was it that got you interested in art when you were younger, like when you were in school and that kind of thing?
Well,
Was there something that inspired you?
I'm one of those children who didn't stop, because most children are thrilled with painting, but by around 8, the parents try to discourage them, and steer them more into more lucrative paths, But I didn't stop, and I was very encouraged in my high school in Jamaica, and by my own parents, who would not only say, "Oh, that's nice, darling," when I showed them a painting. They would frame them and hang them up in the house, and I'd be convinced by that maybe they were good. So I was really very, very strongly encouraged by my small world around me to paint.
And it is interesting,
And
isn't
then,
it, that aspect?
but adding to that, I had two Scots art teachers. One who, Valerie Bloomfield from Glasgow, who was just out of art college herself and teaching in Jamaica, and married a Jamaican. And then I had another Bill Broom, who was a Scotsman who had been taught by Hugh Adam Crawford, who he thought very, very highly of. And he recommended to my parents that I should go to Dundee, where he was teaching in Jamaica. And he recommended Dundee because he thought that Hugh Adam Crawford would teach me as well. But when I got to Dundee, Mr. Crawford was the principal, so he didn't do much teaching. But I would go in and knock on his door and talk to him anyway and show him little drawings I was doing and, get private lessons from him. And it was wonderful the way he responded to that, because I was just first year, sort of nobody. And when the head of painting would come and knock on his door, he'd say, "Oh, go away," because he loved teaching so much.
So that's fascinating, and actually it leads into what I was going to ask you next in terms of, what role studying in Dundee and being at Duncan and Jordanstone, what that meant for you on your journey as being an artist
Well,
in
for
Dundee.
me, it was like my dream was to be an artist. I was steeped in the Impressionists, the stories of the artists, Modigliani, Monet. I was absolutely steeped all my childhood in art books. And every Christmas I got a new art book. And this was European art. And I was totally dazzled by it. And now here I was going to try myself. But of course, when you go to a contemporary art school, the students are doing cutting edge. They want the contemporary work that's going on. But I was looking much further back to the old painters. I was dying to know more about the old masters and the great painters in history, because I was coming from the third world. So I was not cynical, There was no way I was dismissing what my contemporary students were being, quite snotty about. They were busy dismissing things that I was completely awed by. So,
This
so
might
the
be a good
first
point,
teacher that
actually. Oh, sorry, there was a slight delay in the time. I wanted to share, actually, just connecting exactly into what you were saying there, maybe the the self-portrait that you have of yourself when you were a student, if Matthew, you were able to share that.
yes, you
And
can see clearly from that what I was looking at the great painters in the art school library, and trying to be one. But by this time that I did this painting, they had sort of knocked out of me the raw color that I was using from Jamaica, which was yellow and red straight out of the tube. My contemporary students, they laughed at me so much and called it jungle color. Here she comes with her jungle color again. And they got me down, to doing those Scots grays, the Scottish coloring, and I was learning that. And you can see it quite clearly there.
yeah. And there's another painting as well we have of one of your fellow students. Oh, this is from your own studies of when you were a student as well. I don't know if you'd like to
Well,
comment
that's
a bit
like
on that.
looks like first and second year,
Mm-hmm.
which is more academic, learning form and learning even from the plaster cast. We drew from plaster cast. It was very much a traditional academic training. And that's what I came for. That's what I wanted. There were a lot of people being rather dismissive of that, but I was hungry for that. That's what I wanted.
And you formed a lot of friendships as part of that experience of being in Dundee as well. And we have a
Yes,
painting here of
this
one of
is
those.
John Johnston. He was fourth year when I was first year, and at the time was the college expressionist. His work was completely expressionist and just awesome to me, and it still is actually. I still feel the same way about Johnny's work as I did then. I think he's a great painter, and I learned enormous. And not you can't learn from Johnny because his work is completely idiosyncratic in himself. It's completely individual and looks like nobody else's work. But that's okay. I was learning at the college. I was learning a more academic approach at college. I don't know why people are dismissive of that, because it really is a foundation for drawing, for good drawing.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of being in Dundee, in what ways do you feel like, I mean, it's very different, right, in terms of kind of the landscape and the setting, and here we have sort of a city street scene
Well,
shown
it
here.
was, I was trying here to be an expressionist too.
Mm-hmm.
Every week I tried a different style. But
Uh-huh.
um, no, it was culture shock in many ways for me, because I had never lived anywhere but Jamaica. I left Jamaica very late in life. I mean, children start traveling early now, but I was 15 before I left Jamaica for the very first time. So the Scottish world was a complete culture shock in a good way, I must say, in a very good way, because I'll never forget the first time I saw snow and the branches outlined in that line of white, and I fell completely in love with Macintosh Patrick's landscapes, and the incredibly almost photographic, but much better than photographic, his realism of the Scottish landscape. I was just completely awed by that. And he taught at the school, so I was actually getting trained by people who I really respected and admired, you know. He used to call me Sadie. He pretended to not remember my name. But,
And it's interesting you talking about landscape actually, because if we go to one of your other paintings, the revisiting Port
well,
Antonio, this is one of the sort of famous views, and in particular, and you were saying that this is a reworking of an earlier view that has been a kind of a striking component of your work as well, landscapes.
yes, the reason for why I went into landscape was when I left art college, I was doing nudes, figure studies, portraits, all people. And when I came home, that was all I was interested in. But we had a political upheaval here, our first, and it was traumatic. People were leaving Jamaica in droves. There was an exodus, which has continued actually from Jamaica. And the thought that I may have to leave my island home, without having painted it, blasted me out of the studio. I went out, into the bush right away and started painting in a very timid way. And I didn't really know how to go about it. But I used old ancient painting again, 18th century Hakewell, and I studied the 18th century prints that had been done of Jamaica, which were virtually they were still recognizable. Jamaica hadn't changed so much, and you could recognize the places. They were incredibly accurate, but apart from that, they were incredibly meaningful to me. So that was my starting point.
And I wondered if you could
look at something.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there. Sorry. It was really just to ask you a bit about that actual process of painting itself, because you do a lot of painting out in the landscape as well, aren't you? You're there.
Yes, because I started outside. I mean, I didn't do anything in the studio. At first, I would do little sketches outside, because the light, of course, is incredible here. This is the first big problem we're going to have to learn with Jamaican landscape, because the sun is like a huge spotlight over your head in Jamaica. There's not that soft light of Scotland or of northern countries. It's harsh. It's an unbelievable blast of light when you leave the studio. And you have to learn to handle that, and you have to learn to handle distance and haze and heat haze. So there are different problems, and you can get help from looking at world landscape, of course, but then you have to deal with your own particular landscape. And a painter that helped me a lot here was Albert Huey, because he had been painting outside all his life, and he got the flowering trees and the sunlight, the dappled light of Jamaica, which is incredibly vibrant. And I looked at his work and admired his work as well, I even went painting with him sometimes. And he was one who pointed out something that's very interesting, and it was true, that in European landscape painting, you have that recession, tones going back, getting lighter and lighter to show the distance. In Jamaica, very often you had a void in the middle, and then the mountains would jump up in the most startling way, as if they were in the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a Jamaican phenomenon, or a tropical phenomenon, I would say. The heat creates a kind of haze that makes things indistinct in the middle ground. And then the mountains, being against the sky, would jump into the foreground, and you had to handle that. You had to get them to go back, to show the distance. So
Yeah.
it was so interesting once I started out there. I thought at first I would be just doing backgrounds for my figures. It was 7 years before I touched anything else. I got so absorbed in it, and the difficulties of doing it, which were enormous. And it was fun, though, solving those new problems, absolutely new problems outside the studio.
And
Then,
what's
of
it like
course,
then? Oops. Sorry,
well,
continue. Sorry.
there were, at the time, it was a no-no. You were not supposed to touch it. It was as if I had decided to copy jigsaw puzzle, boxes, because it's so incredibly pretty and picturesque and postcard beautiful, Jamaica, that you're not supposed to touch it. You're supposed to shun it. And I thought, that's cowardly. It's cowardly because if you want to be a good painter, you have to be able to paint what you want to paint. And you have to get past that picturesque quality and paint it well, strong. And that's what I was trying to do.
I mean, I think this is such a striking landscape, and obviously your paintings have we see them in various different locations within Jamaica, and obviously in international exhibitions as well. And what's that like for you as an artist when you see your painting in another setting or in a public setting as well?
I understand Jamaicans relating to it because it's their truth. We share a consensus that this is beautiful, or we understand this to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very easy when you have vistas like this. But the truth is that they are true, they are real. It's not commercial dreams, it's actual our reality. So it's hard to paint it really well. And that's what I was trying to do. When people appreciate that without the emotional connection of coming from the same place, it means an enormous amount to me. It really means a lot.
Actually, and I think that's something that's really interesting.
And I'm grateful, very, very grateful for that that interest.
And that connection to place as well, I suppose it ties into sort of one of the questions I had, and something that some of our students are exploring just now is, how do you kind of create a sort of collective sense of identity, or an idea of Jamaican art.
It's a huge part of my painting is that sense of place, and it's a huge part of my enjoyment of all painting. It's starting with Macintosh Patrick in my early days, 16, 17, 18. There's a painting in the Dundee Art Gallery of his back garden and his children hanging the washing up and the apple trees, and they're hanging the washing up, and there are incredible long shadows on the lawn. And over the wall, the back garden wall, you can see Dundee in the distance. And it is absolutely one of the strongest examples of a sense of place. Not just a sense of place, but a love of place. Reflected in that painting. Another famous one is View of Delft by Vermeer. He is expressing 100% how he feels about this place. And there's a reverence in those paintings. And I wanted to get that into my own work.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much. I think, and those are really thoughtful connections as well to other kinds of painters as well that have kind of gone through that process, right, of trying to share the places with which they know the best, right, as well.
Well, there's also, at the time, it was exacerbated by that sense of impending loss, that you might lose it. And that, I think, made it vitally important, more intense to me, because I've, traveled around the world and seen a lot of beautiful places, but not necessarily ones I want to paint. The desire to paint that is a different thing to just admiring beautiful, scenery. It's really beyond that.
What is the thing, do you think, that makes you want to paint a particular landscape? Is it having that kind of history or that
I think
familiarity with?
it's something to do. It's something to do with memories that are maybe lost memories. That feeling of deja vu. That feeling that you've seen it before, or that it's in your blood. You've seen it in your blood before. I had that experience so many times in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's not everywhere that gives you that you can work, though, because sometimes you're right in the middle of a road. I was always hanging off a precipice somewhere. And it was physically really tiring. I mean, exhausting. Painting landscape on location is an exhausting business and a hilarious business too. I've had quite a few adventures with near misses. But I had read about Cézanne and people walking for miles in France, carrying everything and paintings blowing away and this kind of thing. So, I mean, I accepted that as part of the process. So,
Have you had that happen? Did any of your paintings blow away or get chased by cattle or anything?
all the time. I remember, but the Jamaican people that are street people out in the bush, the farmers and the peasant people, you could say, they're fascinated by getting a chance to see the artist working from nature, because this is a rare thing now all over the world. I mean, when I did it in California, I heard that the year after I was there were 8 Japanese in the fields painting the vineyards with straw hats on. Because, and maybe I reawakened or re-triggered some old memory of what painters do. But in Jamaica, they would cluster around me and say, "Artist, teach me the walk, teach me the walk," because they wanted to learn a skill that they could make some money doing. And they were gobbling it up. Sometimes the children would come so close behind me, pressing against me, that I'd say, "Children, I can't paint you do breathing there. You have to sit a little distance from me." But they were full of respect for it, full of respect. And they were so friendly, they wanted to bring big meals for you and take care of you. So I had some wonderful experiences that have nothing to do with painting. It's a way to really know a country and know the people of the country when you're painting their mountain that they live believe. They come up and they claim the mountain and they tell you, no, you can't just look at this mountain and paint here. You have to give me some money first. You have to give me a big money to stand here and paint that because it's theirs.
Yeah. I like that.
It was a wonderful way to work.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
sounds
it.
good. And actually, talking about sort of connection to place and landscape, you also have some just gorgeous still lifes, and those are very much connected also to food
the
and
still
food that
lives
are
came about.
local. Yeah. And I
are you
think
gone?
no,
Oh,
Matthew's
you're
just
showing
sharing your Breadfoot and Aki's painting as well. I wondered if you could talk a wee bit about that and how that plays a
Well,
role also
that
in perhaps
happened.
sharing it. Mm-hmm.
I was, mostly interested in human beings, portraits, clothed or unclothed people. But then I had a crisis after a tragic experience here of a hurricane that really mashed up the country. I was changed by it, and I felt that the love I had for the people around me and my surroundings was not really returned in the same way that I felt it. And I got disillusioned and stepped back from painting portraits because I thought I would never be able to paint in that way as I had when I was younger, with all that emotion. And that went on for a few years, but I wanted to paint, so I did turn to still lives then. I did still life, flower studies, landscape, a lot of other type of painting subjects. And came back round to painting the people again, but without illusion. And I think that the paintings I did afterwards were better because you weren't full of a dreamy-eyed, sentimentality about the people. You were seeing them sort of in their truth, the good and the bad together.
Well, maybe we could share actually the picture bling that we have. This one here,
yes,
is a more recent portrait, yeah.
This is more recent, exactly. And well, they all have a story because it's people's stories. This painting was started before COVID, and I've done lots of paintings of this particular person from Higgintown, but what happened was I didn't get to go on with it because the COVID thing came and everybody was isolated, and a couple of years passed. And it had been such a great start that sometimes the start is too good. It's so good that you're afraid to touch it. You're afraid to go on with it and spoil what you got in the start. And that's how it was with this painting. But then the owner, the man who bought this, came and saw the start and said, "That's the one I want. I want you to finish it for me. And I'm only here for a couple of weeks and I want to take it with me when I go." And I said, no, this is fraught with a whole lot of mishap here. I never get that model again. And this can't happen. And it's not going to look as you see it now. When it's finished, it's going to change a lot. I tried to talk him out of it. And you probably won't like it when I finish it. And he said, "I trust the artist." And when he said, "I trust the artist," he got me. I picked up the phone and I called the model. And he answered on one ring. He answered the phone immediately. And I thought, okay, well, that's a sign. I have to try this. So Michael comes back to pose again. And the theme in my mind at the time was bling, the way, all the gold and the jewelry and the excess flash that was very, very fashionable. It still is fashionable in Jamaica. So I thought, it's really about bling. I'm using him as a bearer of bling. And I could see that he had suffered in the time that we had been apart. He had changed, and his face was hard. He didn't have that soft expression on his face. Anyway, we started, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to touch the face. No, this is almost impossible to do in painting. To not touch anything is really impossible. But the more I looked at him, the more his cells plumped up. His face softened, and he was so loving the attention, which is like a tidal wave of attention that you get from an artist's eyes. Children love it too. You get a blanket of attention. Every inch of you is being examined here. And he loved it so much. He relaxed completely into the role of being a musician, wearing a lot of bling, and which is his dream life anyway.
Yeah.
And it was successfully, there was a harmony between us. And I think it worked very much in this painting. And the man who had commissioned it loved it, and he lent it to you for the show. But he came up with his whole family to collect it, and he took one look and he loved it, and the whole thing was a happy experience. That's why I'm so glad it was in the show.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's wonderful that, if people come by the gallery, they can see it right now. So it's a really
Yeah.
striking piece. It really is. It catches
And
my
I'm
eye every
interested.
time I go by.
Well, I'm interested in the humanity of people. That's what I'm interested in. So
Yeah. And can I ask you, and it's maybe just going back a couple of pictures actually to the still lifes. Is that something that you're still painting as well? And what role does
yes,
still life as a subject play for you as an artist?
I love still life because for me it's a way to relax from much more difficult things like hanging off a precipice and painting a panorama. That's hard.
Yeah.
Still life is relaxing. You can stay in the studio, you're in the shade, you're on firm ground, you can have a fan blowing on you. It's a comfortable way to work.
And can
And
I also? Sorry, go.
well, I also like to suggest in the still lives the wilderness that they come from because it gives them more life, to have the leaves, to have the dried up leaves, the bit of debris, a bit of the environment that they come out of, like the sap in the breadfruit. Because Jamaicans have seen a lot of pictures of breadfruit, but when they see the sap, they go, "Oh, yes!" There's a more connection with that, that little detail. So,
Yeah, it's every time I
it's an
see.
emotional it's an emotional connection, and that's why it means so much to me when it's coming from when I'm connecting with people who are not Jamaican, who don't have that net of all coming from here. When they're, that is a big compliment and big honor for me, I think.
That's brilliant. And actually, um, it's lovely to hear also that you're sort of continuing this work, but also working as well on ongoing landscapes as well. And I think we have a picture here of a more
This
recent
is
one of
one in
Rio Grande
progress.
that you're working on. Yeah. Could you tell us a wee bit
Yeah,
about
this is
that one?
going
And mhm.
well. This is in progress. You can see that it is. I mean, it's got quite a distance to go. An enormous amount on the left here is going to be removed, or probably has been removed already. A lot of muddled stuff here. It's in the process, and what happens in this process is you're putting a lot in and taking a lot out. You're trying to get it to the most important things, the essentials, you know. And in this, I'm lucky because I have not only an incredible view, I have an incredible place to work. I have um, I was offered a place to stay with this view, and my hostess is so simpatico. If I'm hot, she brings a fan for me. I'm actually under cover with shade, and it's incredibly comfortable working there. And I'm just about coming to the end of this one now, and I've been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth many times. And the last time I was there, she opened a cottage I hadn't seen before, and she said, "Let me show you this." And there was this view about 3 times the width. You follow the river all the way down to the sea, and you can see the sea. And I said to her, "You're a wicked woman. Why have you done this to me?" And she said, "Because I want you to come back and paint it." So I may not be able to resist that.
That sounds like a
So
wonderful friend, definitely.
yes, but I find this cooperation, this trying to help you, is so Jamaican. There's so many times I've been painting out in the bush, and someone comes with a machete and chops down my foreground because they think that they're helping me. by making it much neater and tidier for me. Of course, they're destroying the foreground, but it's in the spirit of helping you. It looks good now, but wait till you see it when I finish cleaning it up for you. So,
I
but
suppose that's a
they're
good
all,
incentive to paint quickly.
but they're sharing in the creating of the thing as well,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
a lovely emotion. So I appreciate it. I do.
That's good. Well, I was going to ask just one sort of last question on from the sort of group of questions we have here, and then we'll take a wee look in the chat at questions that people have sent in. And it was really just in a more broad sense, how you see, what the opportunities and challenges are for artists working in Jamaica today,
Uh,
or perhaps more widely, but what are some of the
well,
things that you've sort of noticed?
the, I don't know what to say about what you might have called in my youth the art scene. I have no idea what to make of it now. I'm out of it completely. It's gone way past me. What the intentions are behind it, or what the art brokers, the big money people, are envisioning, is a completely different thing to being just a working painter somewhere in obscurity, painting and trying to reach their people in their world with their work. It's so changed from that
Mm.
I'm completely baffled by it. If a man sticks a banana on a wall with some duct tape, and it's 150,000 US dollars he gets for that, and then 2 years later he sticks another banana on the wall with another piece of duct tape, but it's a different banana, and he gets 2 million US dollars for that. I'm baffled by that. What is that? I do not recognize that as the life of the real painter in the world. I don't recognize it. I don't know how to suggest to a young painter to get a nice opportunity. I really don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel completely excluded from what they
Mm.
call the art market, and I'm really happy to be excluded from it
Yeah, yeah. It's
because
interesting that
it seems
dynamic.
quite well. It seems quite fraudulent to me in many aspects, and certainly wasn't what my dream was. To
Yeah,
be a part
yeah,
of that. So
yeah,
I don't have any advice. I don't.
yeah.
I don't think this is happening in the other arts. I think it's happening mostly in painting. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
recognize what they're doing as
Yeah,
painting or why they're doing it. I really don't relate to it.
yeah. It
And
brings up a lot of interesting issues, I think, around shifts in the art world and in terms of the monetization as well of that too.
well, with other painters, with all painters, there is a common language, or till now there has been a common language. Of the holding of the brush, the dipping of the brush in paint, the, whatever the immense spectrum of styles that encompasses. But this, what they're doing now, which looks like publicity stunts and isn't even using paint, I don't understand. I do understand um, Jenny Saville. I think she's a genius painter, and I was so glad to catch her show in London when I
Mm.
came up to Scotland recently. Dazzling painter, and I
Yeah,
totally and 100% understand what she's doing.
yeah.
But there are not that many, anymore that I can um, learn from or be inspired by.
Mhm. Oh, well, thank you for this. It brings a lot of interesting things to think about as well. I think what we might do now is turn to some of the chat questions. We've got quite a few here. How do you feel? One of the questions we have here is, how do you feel your work reflects your identity? Are there specific aspects of your work that you feel connect to your identity?
Well, I was my identity is that I was born in Jamaica and that I'm here 3 generations later, the 3 generations of us. So I am a Jamaican person. But in Jamaica, the word identity triggers all kinds of political propaganda, which I'm resistant to. I get kind of bristle at that word identity because of the meanings that come along with it. In Jamaica, sometimes it comes along with a complete obsession with the color of one's skin, which I'm not obsessed with. And so I'm uncomfortable with the question.
Okay, thank you for, and I think that's helpful for us to have a bit of context as well, right, in terms of from another location as well. We have another question here. It's the landscape you're working on at the moment. Could you please say what attracted you to the scene and what you're portraying in that particular, the Rio Grande painting that we saw just a wee while ago?
Well, it's a kind of, it's a mystery why you pick one painting. It's something to do with a gasp inside, a kind of intake of breath, a kind of, oh my God, reaction. And then you try to pin down that immediate reaction, and it's usually a kind of awe of beauty at its peak, and that's really what I'm responding to. I'm just a simple person. That's what I'm responding to. And I would like to share that with you. So I want you to feel as if you're there with me seeing it. This incredible thing that we're looking at.
Thank you very much. And we have another question here that's just come in asking, do you have any input to the Edna Manley College in Jamaica? Are you involved in, do you have any ties to the art school there at all?
Well, of course, Kingston is a very small town, so I know a lot of people who have taught at the Edna Manley School, and a lot of friends of mine, and I go to the exhibitions. Yes, that's the connection I have. But I have never taught there myself.
I feel like it would be a good opportunity to get us having a sort of virtual seminar between here, Dundee, and Jamaica now, and links to the art school as well. Would be lovely, definitely. I think.
Nobody asked me about the portrait of Mr. Lucy Smith.
Oh yes, that was
portrait of.
Yes, actually, maybe Matthew could put that up again.
But I honestly, when that was commissioned, I was very happy that it was commissioned, because if it hadn't been, I may not have painted Mr. Lucy Smith, and that was done as a job for Teresa Roberts, who owns that collection that I'm included in. But Mr. Lucy Smith is the man who actually changed my life. And how often can you say in life that you meet someone who actually changes your life? And he did change mine. So when it was 1 week I had to finish this, and the style of painting is you can't really make corrections. It's thin and it's stated, and then you move on. You don't repaint, and you can't make connections, and you can't get it heavy anywhere. I prayed. I held my breath. He sat in front of me. I held my breath. I prayed to God. I said, God, please be with me now and at the hour of my death, and let me get this on one. And so that painting, I'm really quite pleased with how it came out. One, it's a good likeness. There's so many great painters who have painted Mr. Lucy Smith that I was in some heavy company. But I was very pleased.
Can you talk a bit about how his work connects to your own painting?
How he changed.
Yeah.
Well, how he changed my life was that I asked him as a stranger to come to Jamaica to do a book on our old master painter here, Albert Huey. Who, I just wanted him to write an article or in some way acknowledge Albert Huey's work at age of 80, and he came to do that. That's how I met him. And when that project was over and the book was done and everything, that skipping over quite a lot, he said at that point, I'd like to spend some time with you talking about your work. And I swear to God, I never slept the entire night. I was at the time when I met Mr. Lucian Smith a bit broken. I was a bit damaged as a painter when it came to my own work, and full of doubt and severe damage, really. And I certainly didn't show him my work. But where we would go to look at Albert's work, sometimes the owners would have one of mine, and they would drag it out from under the bed or in a cupboard somewhere, and they'd say, and this one is Judy's, and I'd go, oh God, I could, kill them, really. And he never responded by one flicker of his eyelash when he would see one of them, and I would be so humiliated, And then he had this talk with me, and the only painting I had that I could find quickly to show him my work going on, because we weren't near my studio, was a still life. And I was so insecure about my painting, And at the end of the conversation, he was leading the conversation, and I said, well, what you're saying is you wouldn't mind doing a book for me too? And he said, yes, I think I'd like to. And that changed my life. It really, completely. Yeah. It absolutely changed the way I saw myself, the way everything, unfolded after that. It was because of him saying, yes, I think I'd like to do a book about your work.
It's great how that
it was like a birth. It was like a birth, a rebirth.
That's
and
great.
He has done it for a lot of other people too, and we all think the world of him.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we have another question that's come in from the chat there, and it's let's see. It says, do you feel your work connects you to those who haven't been to Jamaica before?
I hope so. That's what I'm hoping for, really. That's what I want. I want to share this particular experience, my reality, my world, with people outside.
And we can certainly see it through the Jamaican Journeys exhibition. Actually, it's been really interesting in terms of the diversity of people who have come in and how people have commented on the connections. The paintings have really resonated with them.
How I feel about it is it doesn't matter what the subject really is. It could be a mango on a table. It could be a bunch of get-ups. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that it embodies a culture, a way of life, a particular aspect of nature. And I have always appreciated it and loved it my whole life, and as we do here, and I like sharing it with others because I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it, our culture.
Oh, thanks. And one last
But that's not the reason why I'm painting, I'm doing it for me, really.
Well, it's something you love, don't you? It's really important as well.
Yeah, it's a simple thing. I don't want to take ideas from other worlds, regurgitate them, and give them back to them. I want you to experience what we have.
Yeah.
Small as it may be, And it isn't small, actually. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great way to fit it. Yeah, definitely. And actually, we have one last question here that's come in, and the time has just flown by. It's been wonderful. But we have a question here from Dr. Ushamani, and they're asking, how do you think your art has evolved? Is there key ways in this journey that we've taken through your work that you feel your work has
Yes.
evolved through this journey?
It has, if evolved is a word that suggests that, it's a line of progression and it gets better. It doesn't necessarily. It changes rather than evolves because it's your whole lifetime. And you're going through a lot of changes. You're going through changes of ideas, changes of approaches. This is way to keep your work alive. You have to let the changes take place. For instance, when you look at the art of a lot of the great painters, you can see that towards the end of their lives, their eyesight is going. It's shakier, it's indistinct. But they're still great painters. But they're going through changes, like Mary Cassatt. You can see it in her work. And you'll see it in my work. The when I look at my early work and see that sharp eyesight and that incisive line, I think, oh, I miss having that, But it doesn't matter. You can find another way to paint. Mm-hmm. And there's another thing. I think that it's a little different in the case of, the painters who are expressing themselves, and the idea of their work is to express themselves. I'm the opposite. I want to disappear. I don't want you to be interested in what color nighty I like or, my personality. I want you to see what I am seeing with me, and I'm not there. I am removed, and you're now there looking. That's what I want to disappear into my work, and that's my idea. It's not to express myself. It's to express something else. So that's. But thanks for the question. Yes, it doesn't evolve so much as change. It keeps changing.
Well, thank you. And I think that's really a lovely way to finish up the conversation for now. But I know that we'll definitely have more conversations in the future.
Thank you so much for your interest. It means a lot to me.
That interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And your questions.
People in the comments are saying thank you very much as well for your generosity in sharing this experience with us. And I think we really do feel like we've had this opportunity to be with you too and learn more about this. So thank you. It's been wonderful.
I feel the same way. Thank you too.
And hopefully you get to go and relax and maybe do get to work on a painting that's relaxing and not in too much relentless sun.
Soon I'll get a chance to go back to that river, but in the meantime, there are more relaxing things I can do.
Yes.
I'm enjoying the river. I'm enjoying the river. Where I'm working, I don't have any problems. I'm enjoying the river very much.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you again, Judy, and it's been wonderful chatting with you. And thank you to everyone that's joined us in the conversation. And thanks for all your great questions. It's been really lovely to get this input. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, everyone. Bye. And goodbye for now. Have a good evening or a good afternoon, Judy. Bye.